The MLS Conference quarterfinals are set, so I'm going to give you my MLS Cup playoff preview, maybe predictions. Predicting MLS Cup playoffs is is probably the most difficult thing to do, as we have seen historically. We'll get to all of that, but some big news around MLS that I will delve into as well, and what it means for the big picture today here on the Soccer OG. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumb. And let's get going as we, again, will cover a wide variety of topics. Today is the MLS Cup Playoffs. Recording this on a Friday. Very shortly, we will open things up in the conference quarterfinals, which are best of three. The higher seed will have game one, game three if necessary, so there is an advantage after the long season. We'll see how that plays out because madness certainly ensues in the MLS Cup playoffs. But get in there. And that's what I kind of want to start with, because I see so many people, the conspiracy theorists, say MLS doctors this and doctors that to put certain teams in position to win. Well, just look at the history of the MLS Cup playoffs. I mean, who have been the most successful teams in the last 10, 15 years? The Columbus Crew, a great plucky side, but by no means a big market, big star-driven club. Toronto FC, back in the day, I will tell you this, in the United States market, you don't really benefit as much from the Canadian clubs because the Canadian media outlets and all that kind of take the rub. So that's already diminished. And the Seattle Sounders, which, again, a team that has done all the right things. Again, not superstar power driven, but, they are who they are. They move the needle, but not like Lionel Messi would, LAFC would, a New York City club would, whomever across the board. So, look, last year, and you look through the history, the top seeds rarely make it. The year they did make it was 2022. We had the all-time best MLS Cup final with LAFC beating the Philadelphia Union. But generally, it doesn't happen. Last year, the 7th seed, the New York Red Bulls, who don't move the needle whatsoever, made it. So there you go. So let's not keep bringing that up. I will get into how these playoffs look because, again, predictions are lunacy. But I think you can get a good idea of how things will play out based on what we've seen. It's been a unique season. Some big news coming into the postseason weekend with regards to the league that divulged some of its ratings numbers. I believe 29% up viewership year to year. There is a lot of data that is very positive, and they said that number is across the league. So I understand the fact that the majority of that number is people watching Lionel Messi. Very few people are probably tuning in to see Nashville, Real Salt Lake. I get it. But that is most good sports leagues. You turn into La Liga to watch Real Madrid and Barcelona. You're not going to see Osasuna or Getafe. You turn into the Premier League to see the heavyweights. You turn into the NBA to watch LeBron James and Steph Curry. You're not sitting there watching the Atlanta Hawks and the Charlotte Hornets. The top heavies move the needle. And MLS is getting better at having more of that top heavies with the introduction of Son Heung-min and Thomas Mueller, and we'll see where it goes from now. But San Diego FC seems like a team that's very high ambition. New stadiums coming on in Miami, New York. We're hearing all sorts of names. I think there's going to be more players that people will tune into, and obviously more teams that the neutrals and the fans at large will find interesting. So, that's just sports. You got to have a good heavy class. Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Columbus Crew, said it. He goes, now we've got to really work on our product on the field. There's a lot of wealth, a lot of people that are going to be sharing the responsibilities MLS clubs to make the product better. I have no doubt about it. You can see it year to year. The league would be best interest to loosen up, some of the purse strings a bit. I mean, that's a dangerous situation. Moving to the European calendar, which we keep hearing is going to happen. I think that's going to be on offer in a year or two. I think that helps us too, and I all due respect to the folks in Minnesota and New England and Canada, I understand that, but this is really direction the league is going. So that is huge news. And then the news that Lionel Messi is going to remain with the league through 2028. Has Lionel Messi left some meat on the bone in the league? There is no question. We never hear from him. He doesn't do interviews. Clearly, he calls the shots in many ways with the player personnel. You just look at the proliferation of the Argentine players and his buddies like Luis Suarez and Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba, the last two who are no longer going to be with the club. So the Miami offseason looks to be very interesting. Rodrigo de Paul, a variety of Argentine players. But could he be doing so much more, kind of like what we've seen with Son Heung-min? Absolutely. But Has he made MLS all that much better? That is a debate to be had. I think MLS could certainly do well moving forward. The growth would be a little bit slower, but having him 3 years gives the league time to get on better footing. People still tune in, and the folks at Inter Miami have done a wonderful service for the league because every time they're on the road, fans come out in droves. That's good for the bottom line of all these clubs. So that is great news. There's no other way to look at it. And that is all going into the pot. And I go back to the Apple TV stuff. There's a lot brewing on there. These playoffs, from what I understand, aren't going to be behind the second paywall. So you go to Apple TV, you'll be able to access those games in the playoff, suggesting that that might be happening in years to come. I know nothing, but it would make sense with Apple TV, who are expanding their sports portfolio, bringing in F1. There's got to be some sort of rub there between F1 and MLS. And I think what you think is during these F1 races, the announcer goes, make sure you tune in Saturday to see MLS season pass. That all matters. And you'll see Apple continue to build their sports portfolio. Maybe a big soccer property out there. They're certainly going to happen. A lot of things are running their course with their rights. We'll see what Apple TV is interested in. There was that talk about the Club World Cup when it came around. Who knows? But Apple TV's got to be happy with this number, with the viewership. It's not like this, but growth where they can see every year they make some changes and they'll see more growth. It's going to happen. And I also want to mention to a lot of people who say they don't watch MLS because they don't get on Apple TV. You can understand it. The alternative is to maybe, there's no guarantee that they could stay at Fox and ESPN on the regular occurrence. But MLS had to make a decision. And this was it, to get into that streaming, the global streaming business, which, again, they have seen some developments. They have had to concede a lot. There's no doubt about that with local broadcast, with the numbers they would get on the big national media. But I worked at ESPN, and I've told this to you before. ESPN did the bare minimum with MLS. Fox did the bare minimum. They weren't promoting this on their big tentpole shows. ESPN's never did to MLS what they're doing with WNBA, where it's promotion, yada. It's amazing what they've done for the WNBA, and the WNBA has benefited. That was never happening for MLS. There'd be a game on a Saturday, a game on a Wednesday. The big MLS Cup game got very little promotion. There was nothing on SportsCenter, and then Fox, you wouldn't see it at all. So you could keep doing that, but there is no sign of growing. They've kind of had to reset and concede on the viewership. And again, I don't know if it's going to work out. But I like to see what's happening, and you see progress. So I'm excited, especially with what is happening with these big stars. That is going to make a big difference. Hopefully they can get some more. But it's also developing young players. It's also getting players in their prime like Anders Dreyer and Philip Zinkernagel and Denny Bwanga to dedicate themselves to this league, and it's happening. Let's get to the playoffs. Again, I'm not giving you predictions because I'm going to be wrong. But I think starting in the East, you've got to expect bedlam. Everyone wants to see Inter Miami. An Inter Miami LAFC final would solve a lot of problems for MLS, which means it's not going to happen because it never happens. But that would be amazing. And really, Inter Miami against any team in the Western Conference would be big business because of Lionel Messi and company. But the Eastern Conference, there are too many good teams. I think all 8 teams have a winning record. I think anyone can beat anyone, which tells me it's impossible to pick the East. Philadelphia Union, the Supporter Shield, everyone's already picking them to lose somewhere along the lines. They could lose to Chicago Fire, who looked amazing in the wild card game. You have Charlotte, New York City in the 4-5 game. Both those teams feel like they could make an MLS Cup. Then you have Lionel Messi on the other side of the bracket. They're taking on Nashville, and the winner there would get Cincinnati Columbus. Now, I'll start with Cincinnati. They have the best all-round team. You need a good defense. Well, this becomes an issue for Inter Miami. You need a good defense to go far in the MLS Cup playoffs. Cincinnati has it, but they continue to stub their toe in the postseason. It's hard to trust them, even though they have Evander and some new players you would like to. But I don't think anyone's trusting them based on the predictions I have seen. And I ain't going to be the guy to do it. I would love to see Cincinnati make a final. But there's just something there with their history that it would be against the grain if they made MLS Cup. Miami's defense is just not good enough. They played very well down the stretch, and you could see that even though Lionel Messi, and you're putting a lot on his plate to try and score 2 and 3 goals a game, even with Lionel Messi and expecting him to play every game, and he's been tremendously durable this season. If you look at the numbers, I mean, 29 goals, 19 assists. Lionel Messi has gone above and beyond what he can do as a player, keeping up appearances. So, Lionel Messi has done his part. This is not a guy who disappears because the game is being played here or whatever. He's been healthy, knock on wood. Hopefully that continues. But you can't trust that defense. Lionel Messi in Miami lost to a really bad Atlanta United team last year in the conference quarterfinals. That team got worse. They didn't even make the playoffs, but they weren't good last year, but somehow were able to navigate through that series. So it's hard to say. So when you're picking the East, flip a coin. I would think somewhere in that 4-5 game. Let's say Charlotte FC would be my pick, but subject to change. Don't hold me against it. In the West, I think it's just 3 teams. It is San Diego, Vancouver, and LAFC. You have that 4-5 game. Minnesota have had a great year, but they've lost their 2 best attacking players, Tani Alawache, who is now playing brilliantly in Spain, and Kelvin Yeboah, who is injured. Maybe they can get him back. Seattle's been good, and it's the Seattle Sounders, but they lost Pedro de la Vega. That's a big ask for them after all the games they have played. 6, 7, and 8 in the West. Austin, Dallas, and Chicago. Not Austin. Austin, Dallas, and Portland just don't have it this year. I've been waiting for San Diego FC to stub their toe, but they just don't. And the last 2 games of the year, they scored 8 goals and won both games away from home. So I would not be here to tell you they can't win or make MLS Cup. I think they're a bona fide threat. Vancouver Whitecaps, Thomas Mueller, they've had some injury concerns, but they have been the best team really from pillar to post. When you look at what they did in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, almost winning the West, probably should have dropped the ball at the very end because of a red card. I think the best bet is LAFC. Sung Heung-min with time to really recharge the batteries, and Denny Bouanga. Their defense has been very good, and Steve Cherundolo is a tried and tested coach in this league. It's his swan song, so I would lean towards LAFC finding a way. They lost twice to San Diego FC, but were right in those games at the end, and they've always had the upper hand against Vancouver Whitecaps. I'm not saying it's going to be LAFC, but if you're asking me, I'd say LAFC, Charlotte. We'll just put that there as a marker, but I think those 3 teams in the West have a chance, whereas in the East, everyone has a chance. I'm dead serious. So there you go. Quick, brief, to the point. Good stuff around Major League Soccer. We're excited to be covering it, and you can see all the action on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV starting from Friday all through the Wednesday, best 3, and we'll keep going from here. Like and subscribe to the video. We'll be back with much more goodness in the days and the weeks ahead. I don't know. That wasn't my best sign-off, but I'll leave it at that.